And we're back on CentralValleyTalk.com. Let's talk business. Let's talk about writing with a local author who joins us now. Tim Desmond has a new book called The Dock. And I just found out this is actually Tim's second book. The first one went right to the top of the charts, right?
Locally.
Locally, yeah. Well, the first book was about World War II.
Right.
This one is called The Dock, and a totally different story. No connection to the first one.
Right.
It's not a continuation of the story or the same characters.
No.
No. Well, tell me about The Dock.
Well, the Doc, the character is Dr. Henry Houston. Lives in his local fictitious town on a river, and he's a different kind of character in a way. He's an avid gun sports enthusiast, was a hobby gun dealer, which he was for a while. He's like many professionals, he flies his own plane, owns his own airplane, and he was a competitive sports high-power marksman at one time.
Okay.
He could hit the X ring at 1,000 yards in open sights.
It's pretty good.
And but he's also a Civil War reenactor, and he has these friends that he Civil War reenacts with. They have a daughter that's in grad school in Virginia, and she's reenacting also back at Virginia reenactments, Civil War reenactments. Meets a guy there, falls in love with him. And this fellow she falls in love with is a DHS agent, and he's a former Marine.
Is it Homeland Security?
Yes, and he was a former Marine that worked at NSA, but for a stint of his service. And then after 9/11, he ends up going to DHS out of semi-retirement. But he ends up missing.
Uh-huh.
And so
that's where The Dock comes in.
Plus, he'd given her some thumb drives of some documents that he wanted her to get to a certain senator that's on the oversight committee for Homeland Security. And so she gets into trouble because of her boyfriend's lover's connections. And so she's being observed and watched, and her father. And so she ends up spilling her guts in a way to Hank at another California reenactment, gives him one of the thumb drives, and but he doesn't know it. She hides it in some of his gear, and the crux of it is he's got this, and then there's another one that's been buried by her lover and at another site, and goes downhill from there. She gets in worse trouble. She ends up not making it through this. The father of the girl, there's other reenactor buddy, he ends up going back and forth, trying to find answers. Well, Hank gets more involved, and then he's going back, trying to find out what's going on too.
Do we ever find out what's on those thumb drives?
We do, and
don't give it away if it's the big secret.
Yeah, there was other things going on too. That was another premise that she was in graduate school, was working on a premise of a called control thesis, that since the Civil War, the excessive government control has just been going to what we are experiencing today. And she's trying to connect all the legal stuff in her paper. And originally the story was called Control, based on that. But during the revision process.
Did the publisher say we want a different name? Or?
About 5 years ago, this was an e-book. It was a different version. It was e-book only.
Okay.
And that's when the Dock name came into being. So now it's in print where people can have it.
Hold it in their hand.
Hold it in their hands. Take it on trips.
Now it just came out, what, Saturday?
Yes, released
the new
Saturday.
version.
Yes, it's the print version.
Okay.
The other one's not available anymore.
But this Amazon? Where can I find it?
This is everywhere. It's Amazon. It's on some sites I never heard of, like All Romance, and even Kobo, which I believe is an all ebook site. But Barnes and Noble and Amazon and Kindle, it'll have all the electronic ebook versions available also. So,
is it exciting to be a published author?
Well, yes and no. I mean, originally, yes, with that first one, it was what came out in '05 and '06. I mean, I was jumping in. I'm still jumping in, going to the newspapers, taking my media packet to everybody I can. But since then, the social media stuff has affected so much of marketing and promotions. And that's another whole story, and another whole show, really, is the marketing problem.
Well, that's what we're all about, Central Valley
That's right.
Talk.
That's what I thought the Let's Business thing would be good about.
Yeah.
About discussing.
Well, this
So,
whole operation here is to let people have an inexpensive way of publicizing their
It-
books, products, businesses.
Yes, and when this story was an ebook, I was doing everything I could online, but I really didn't have anything right in my hand. I could go to someone and say, "This is what I'm selling."
Right.
And so even when I was pushing my first book, it was in print. I mean, I had something to work with that one also. So I like to think that I've learned something, even though things keep changing on you in this business. And the writing is a business. There is that
Oh, yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah.
And we had so many stores go under. Dalton went under, Borders. And which surprised me because there was a business connection with Borders and Amazon. And I don't know if people must know that, because if you would go on a Borders site back in the 90s, they would send people to Amazon both ways. And
Sounds like a story for a book.
yeah, well, maybe
What
so.
really went on with
Yeah, what
Amazon
really
and
went-
Borders?
What happened behind the scenes.
All
yeah,
right,
so.
Tim. Thank you so much for coming on
Well,
today.
thank you for having me.
And
This
I
has
wish you
been
the
great.
best of luck.
Thank you.
The name of the book is The Doc, D-O-C.
Yep.
And
DOC,
you can
The
find
Doc.
it, as he said, at Amazon or your local bookstores. And you're already working on the third book?
Two of them.
Oh, two of them.
One's a sequel to this, and the other one completely different, about a physics teacher that is frustrated because he can't get published. So,
All right, we have to come back when those are coming out. Tim
Okay.
Desmond. All right, we'll be back with more on Let's Talk Business on CentralValleyTalk.com.
Javita.com.